for me, it's the culmination of over 15 years of effort is finally coming true. To have seen it when it was a big shaft of light you could see in town to the one that was so wimpy you could barely see it when you were here. And now we're going to get that shaft of light back. And it means so much to so many people in Montauk, especially the boat people. But we're not there yet. I'm afraid to jinx it, but quite frankly, Ruth brought up that this morning, and I said, Ruth, I don't want to talk about it because if you overdo this, you could set up a wrong karma and it not work.
This Fresnel lens was manufactured in Paris in 1902 specifically for our lighthouse. And it was in service from 1903 to 1987, so it's 84 years. People love this lighthouse so much, and the people who remember that lens yearn for it and have yearned for it for years.
My earliest recollection of the lighthouse would be leaving to go fishing early in the mornings in the dark with my dad. Two things you always had to remember with the lighthouse. You had to keep it either on your left or on your right as you went by. And back in the 60s and 70s, that was the principal means of us to navigate around the point, either to go offshore or to fish in the rips. So the light was key to us. And it wasn't just when we were fishing offshore, it was also when I was surf casting for 40 years underneath the lighthouse. And you'd see this beautiful glow go by every minute and a half, I think it was, and we would be casting and you wouldn't see your lure land until the light came across, and trying to fight a fish, you're trying to time getting them close when the light got right in front of you. So it was quite a change even for us surf casting under the lighthouse. When the light changed to this little pen light, I remember when I first saw it, it was like, what happened? You could barely see it.
The 3.5 order bivalve, or clamshell as we like to call it too, is a really rare lens. It was built by BB&T. They were the best lens manufacturer of their time in the late 1800s, early 1900s. So that lens is a rare lens. It is the top of the line lens. It operated for over 85 years flawlessly here. And so, coupled with the historic preservation of this site, adding that lens back to the tower, to me, really completes the maritime story that is here to be told. And so it made absolutely perfect sense.
You know, in lighthouse history, we here in Montauk started out with whale oil, and then we progressed to kerosene. And then we moved to electric light with the Fresnel lens. And those were all improvements. But when the Fresnel lenses were taken out of service, it wasn't because there was something better. There wasn't an improvement. There was actually just an issue of trying to reduce the amount of maintenance that had to be kept. But there is no beam and no light that is better than the light that comes out of a Fresnel lens.
It is going to happen, it's not going to happen. We've been back and forth so many times. I'll have to say, from being on active duty and to my job here, I didn't think that this would ever happen, just because it is such an accomplishment for us to put all these things in place that they asked for, including HVAC in a space that really was never intended to have heating and ventilation, monitoring that's very state-of-the-art and unique and has been tailored just for our application. So there's been many things that have fallen into place that have helped us achieve this goal for the Montauk Lighthouse and the Historical Society.
As far as I'm concerned, this is not a done deal until the lens is in the tower and that light is shining. We've been given a beautiful grant by the Ludwig Family Foundation to get it done. It looks as though it's going to happen. We've got our fingers crossed, but I'm not making any firm statements until I see the light.
Really? We've done
Wow.
I put the seats down and I got in the back of there.
I did exactly what you did. I put it on a piece of cardboard and got it in. And my son helped me.
One of the things I do quite often is I'll stop and I'll think, and I may actually yell at people to shut up for a minute because I need to think about the lens. These are priceless antiques and are extremely fragile. I'm in charge. I'm the lampist. It's your lens, but this is my project. You hired me for my expertise. First thing I need to do is I have to look at the balance of the lens, how the lens was constructed.
Too old for this.
And then it's actually quite obvious from there, but I'll say you have to start at the top and work your way to the bottom. You disassemble, take the top ring off, and then you want to take the lens apart in a balance. You want to mix, move back and forth and remove prisms as you go downward. The prisms are in frames, so they come apart in sections. This lens was 12 sections, so there are 12 pieces, actually 13 pieces of this lens. You start at the top and you remove the screws, but you leave everything else in place as you go down. And then you try to keep it in balance as you go to the bottom so that the lens doesn't tip or tilt while you're working on it. And that's the basic deconstruction of the lens. Luckily for us, the lens had been disassembled about approximately a year earlier for some prior work. So the screws had been loosened, everything was nice. There was a couple of head scratches trying to figure out exactly the order that it went apart. But I've done this a lot. I'm quite familiar with this. It's what I do for a career. And no, there were no surprises. And with the help of Alex and the staff here at the museum, we actually had the lens down in 2 hours and ready for transportation to the top of the tower. It was suggested by the board that we rent a crane. That's how the lens was originally removed from the tower. Let's get a crane. Well, I have only worked with a crane in the lighthouse and one other job. I love the idea of a crane. My back loved the idea of the crane. It was just kind of a terrifying prospect to put this lens in a basket and crank it up in the air 100 feet. However, I met with the gentleman, the crane operator, when he got here. He really knew his stuff. And we had a basket all designed, and Jason had lined it with foam, and we put blankets and everything in there. We loaded the individual pieces into the basket and took them up about 3 different times. Luckily, we had Jason and Alex for extra hands. I could not have done it myself.
Just when I thought I couldn't get any more interested in lighthouses, this surprised me, so now here I am at Montauk on this awesome project. I love it. It's fascinating.
And when we were in the tower, I had my block and tackle up to take the load, to take the strain off us. But that still had to be, it only goes in one way. And finding that one way so you could get one screw started was what the grunting and the noises that you heard were, is getting the first screw set. Once one screw is set, you know that you're in position, because you should be able to pretty much put the screws in by hand. If you're fighting the screws, something's out of order. The thing is a precision instrument despite its weight. So it was designed to come apart and go back together again. It's just getting that when you're standing in the air, as you referred to, when I'm on one leg on a ladder and one leg on the lens, and I'm stretching across a 6-foot gap trying to get a screw to go in. That was the most difficult part of this project.
Want it to go around? It's going around.
This door.
It is on. That's right.
I'll tell you, until that LED was installed into the Fresnel lens, I was holding my breath for 3 days. So everything went perfectly. The lampist made a beautiful mount for that light. He just did a fantastic job. These Fresnel lenses are historically significant, and they're irreplaceable cost-wise. They're national artifacts, and the data that we're collecting is to be able to tell environmentally how they're going to be affected by rotation and the type of effects that the wind, weather, and sunlight will have in the maintenance on them also, and how that's going to affect the quality of the lens.
The sun is the worst thing for a lens. However, this lens rotating all the time will make the sun go away, and the group has put UV protectant film on the tower, which stops the damaging ultraviolet rays. The sun damages the litharge essentially, but eliminating the UV rays from the windows, it takes care of your primary problem. That's the main concern for that. As far as the conditions in the tower, this tower has been prepared for this lens above and beyond any tower I have ever been in.
Coast Guard is truly appreciative of the Montauk Historical Society partnering with the Coast Guard and providing the resources for us to be able to collect that data over the next couple of years.
Because of the historical aspect of it and the fact that it's just so beautiful, one of the most beautiful lighthouses I've ever seen, you know, only thing I thought was missing was the lens. I'm like, this lighthouse needs its lens back up in the tower, and if any lighthouse needs it, it's this one. My main feeling is it's just, I have no words really to describe it. It's just super happy. I have no words. It's amazing. It's one of the most beautiful things.
But Dick was on a mission, and I made a bet with him about 15 years ago, and I said, Dick, I will bet you dinner anywhere you want, at any time, if that ever goes up there. I gave it almost zero chance. Here we are 15 years later. I can't wait to pay that debt to him. It might be expensive.